Kari Lake. We're still waiting for some results here in Maricopa County. We're going to go through the details on the latest from the election tabulators, what the heck is going on with our county recorders. But first, we have to check in with Kari Lake. She says, the midterms are still pending. We are still counting votes. There's still a lot to be happy and thrilled about. She says, America First is alive and well. And we're never going to have an embarrassment like this again, where Arizona counts votes so slowly when she's in charge. But Kari Lake is very careful with the words that she uses as she explains what's happening here. She calls it a slow roll. Here's Kari Lake after the midterm election day, wondering why it's taking so long for the votes to be counted. And she's not specifically alleging anything nefarious going on other than just a slow sort of counting of the votes. There's a delay that's going on. And of course, sometimes a delay might be useful to serve one narrative, one conversation, to blunt a narrative that there was a gigantic red tidal wave coming through the country. You say, oh, there kind of wasn't. You kind of put up dams in the narrative. You kind of slow down a wave in Arizona. You slow down a wave in other places maybe where you can just sort of slow the counting, right? We're still waiting on votes to be counted in Nevada and other places. And people are asking, why is it taking so long? Kari Lake has a theory that it's not anybody's attempt to manipulate or do anything ultimately nefarious, but it just is a procedural mechanism that is just a slow process. I'll let Kari Lake explain here.
It's not going to be treated that way much longer. We will never have another election run like this. I'm sick of it, and the people are sick of it. And we are going to, don't worry, Charlie, and don't worry, America, and don't worry, Arizona. We're going to change things up so we don't have this happening every single election. And we'll work very hard to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm always going to speak the truth, and I will be Arizona's cheerleader. But when we have something that's not working, we have to admit it, and it's not working the way we're doing things. I think, there could be some intentional some intentional actions here to slow roll this. They always intentionally have the early ballots ready to go. We roll those out on election night. They favor the Democrats, and they want to bring down the excitement for Republicans. This is a Republican year. Republicans and even people who aren't Republicans are tired of the dead-end policies of the Democrat Party. But they wanted to throw, like I said, throw cold water on our movement. They want to take that victory away. They want to make it look like America First is not thriving when in fact it is. Don't believe the narrative that you're hearing. They're going to get 2 or 3 days of this where they're saying, oh, Trump didn't do well. His picks actually did do quite well. They did very well. And America First movement is still alive and well. And I think they didn't want us to have our big moment with our big victory speech. They did this to me in the primary. They slow rolled the results when they finally let us declare victory. And when they finally declared me the winner, I was only up by, I think, 0.5 point. So the media ran with the false narrative that I squeaked out a win, a narrow victory. And then later in the coming days, they finally counted the rest of the ballots only to reveal that I won by 5 points, which is pretty good when you're up against 4 opponents. I won by 5 points. But the media never covered that. They kept with that narrative that it was a squeaker. And I think they're going to try to do that again. I believe we win, and I think we win by a good margin. And we're going to go on to reform our elections so we never have this embarrassment again.
A very slow process where we start to see this trickle of votes. I mean, it's just changed ever so slightly every single sort of day and moment we've been on here, checking the polls. And for those of you who are just joining us here live, we had a morning stream for members where we were checking in and the numbers really hadn't moved since the night before. And it's just kind of this very slow process. Kari Lake, I think, is recognizing that it is the effect of this is that it blunts the momentum, right? And it sort of allows the other side to tell a different story that maybe is not in reality. So she says, we're still going to win. Don't worry about it, America. Don't worry about it, Arizona. We're still going to push forward because the votes that have been counted aren't the ones that are going to break in her favor. Now, we've got big questions about, why this is taking so long, how this is taking so long. Even CNN is trying to get a hard number on this. They meet with this guy. You remember him. Bill Gates runs some of the election processes in Arizona, and people are asking, what's taking so long, Bill? When are you going to get a final number for us? We need a deadline. When are you thinking?
Again, when do you anticipate the votes will be counted in total, those 400,000 plus votes?
Well, we will be going into next week. There's some onesie-twosies, again, pursuant to Arizona law, but I think that we'll see the lion's share here wrap up by early next week.
Early next week, can you give me a day? Are we talking Monday? Or we?
Maybe, as long
Maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, because we've got some onesies and twosies to attend to before we can figure out what to do here. Now, I live in Arizona, and we don't really talk like that. Onesie twosies. I'm not sure what that means. Joshua G says it's a legal term. Oh, yeah, I didn't learn that one in law school. Onesie twosies. I don't know what they are. What are onesies and twosies? I don't know. We just got a onesie and twosie it until we get the results. Just put a onesie and a twosie in there, doop, doop, boop, 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 until we get answers. I don't know. Let's listen and see if we can parse this out again.
The votes will be counted in total, those 400,000 plus votes.
Well, we will be going into next week. There's some onesie-twosies, again, pursuant to Arizona law, but I think that we'll see the lion's share here wrap up by early next week.
Onesie-twosies.
Early next week, can you give me a day? Are we talking Monday? Or we?
Maybe, as long.
Oh, no. I can't give you a hard number on it. Just hold your horses there, CNN. Doesn't really matter. We'll get the result that we want when we give it to you. All right. And so you can see there is a lot there. Now, we've got questions about what actually happened in Maricopa County. And so I want to give you an update. There's not a lot of, actual litigation that I'm following right now. Most of that was stalled out, but there is a lot of updates from the county. And so they gave us a little bit of a breakdown on what they say happened on election day, right? Now, this is their official report from Maricopa County, and they dropped this last night at 8 p.m. They said, Arizona and America, here's an update on the printer issue with some vote center ballots yesterday, the day before. They've got some investigation done. They've apparently got answers for us. They say what's important now is all ballots that have been affected will be counted securely and accurately. Now, we're going to take a look at some of the electoral tabulation videos in a minute so you can see what they're talking about. But this is from the press conference. They say, what happened? An issue with the printers impacted an estimated 17,000 ballots, or less than 7% of election day votes. Well, it's a pretty big number there. All right. I mean, what's the margin? Until recently, it was just about, well, we should probably take a look at the margin, actually. Let's take a look and see where we're at, because we probably should do that so we can get our bearings straight, as we like to say here. Have numbers changed? Not really. All right, this is over from Bloomberg. You can see the gubernatorial results in Arizona. We are still at 50.4% for Katie Hobbs and 49.6% for Kari Lake. We're still at, it looks like, about 70% of the estimated vote that is in. So we will check back in. Again, the numbers haven't changed. We're expecting some updates later on in the evening, but let's go back to the update on what happened here from Maricopa. All right. So what happened? 17,000 ballots apparently were involved or impacted or estimated to have been impacted by this problem. Now, if you look at the results, right, that 17,000 votes, that would close the margin because we've only got a margin here of 16,000 votes. All right, so 16,000 is the lead, and the margin that they're talking about is 17,000. So it's like right there. It's like right in the same margin. The numbers are all very close. Here is that number, 16,677 votes. From this number, 17,000, are the ones that might have been impacted. So we're talking about like the same buckets. Yeah. Some ballots could not be read by the tabulators because the printers did not produce dark enough timing marks on the ballots. Now, we knew that there was a toner problem. They forgot to change their toner. And that's why there were there were imprint problems when they printed the ballot out. And a quick refresh, right? You check in on a touch screen, confirms you are who you say you are, and then it prints your ballot with some of those marks on there. The ballot is sort of created for you. So the timing marks were the marks that were problematic. Now, this is a very low sort of sound. Let's see if we can hear what they say.
We have approximately 17,000 of those ballots that were in box 3. So we want to set expectations on that. First thing is the team here now is going through the quality assurance on those ballots, making sure that we don't have any double counts, making sure we know exactly what we're looking at here, okay? But to talk about the full number of in-person ballots yesterday, we have about 7% of the total of in-person ballots yesterday that went into box 3. So that's 17,000 ballots is about 7%. Clear on.
All right, so a quick breakdown of what happened. Remember, to catch everybody up who hasn't been, following Arizona, there was 2 slots that are in the tabulator machines. You take your ballot, fill it out. You're supposed to put it in the top slot. We call that the top door, the front door. And that is what automatically calculates it. It gives you the green check, thumbs up, boom, you get your sticker, you're out of there, you're good to go. If that doesn't work and it wasn't accepting the ballots that were printed and being shoved in the front there, then you had to drop it into what they call door 3, the back door. It's not the automatic tabulation, but those go into a separate bucket, almost like you just mailed it in. It's almost like you just mailed it right in that third door. And then they're going to take that down to the main tabulation center and they're going to count those. They're going to verify those, say, okay, this is not somebody's second or third ballot, like they didn't go to other places. And he's saying it's all going to be confirmed because it's all going ultimately to the same spot. Really, his distinction is it's just being counted in 2 different locations. If it goes in the top slot, it gets counted right there automatically. If it goes in the back door, it goes downtown to the tabulation center, which is where it is tabulated. Now, 7% is a pretty significant number, and a lot of people are asking themselves, okay, well, who might have been not inclined to go to the polls? Who may have been, to use a term that Stacey Abrams likes to use, suppressed? Who may have been suppressed, right? Or dissuaded from voting because they got up, they went, they say, oh, man, I got to be at work at 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock. I'm an early construction guy, got to be on the job site at 6 a.m. So, all right, so I'm going to swing in there at 6 a.m. when they open and just vote real quick before I get to the job site, and then I'll get it done, whatever, okay, or whatever it is. And they say, oh man, long lines. Oh man, delays. Oh man, problems. Okay, I'll get it after work. They go after work, they're exhausted, they're tired, they're sitting in traffic. I'm not going to vote, because I couldn't, whatever, right? And how many of those people who didn't actually put a ballot in slot 3 never even showed up at the polls in the first place, right? Because they got on, they saw long lines and they saw, oh, it's a line or I'm not going to go wait. So they're only talking about the stuff that they sort of saw, right? The stuff that actually got checked in through the poll. But what if there's there's other people who just never showed up in general? What about those people? And those people generally, right, would be Republican voters because they're the people who show up on election day. So we'll see if he gets there and talks about that. But he's saying that all the people who did show up, whether you waited or went to a different location or put it in slot 3, they're all going to be counted. This happened in 70 vote centers, according to Maricopa County, all across Maricopa County. And how they addressed it, they had county techs adjusting printer settings at affected locations to fix the problem. And we did a walk and talk on that day. As soon as I walked out when I voted, and I didn't have any problems when I voted. It was very smooth. My ballot printed perfectly. My signature didn't match because I squiggled my signature, of course. And they said, well, who are you? And they verified me with my license. And they said, okay, you can vote. And they printed my ballot. And I didn't have any problems. But when we were doing our walk and talk, after that vote, which we published here, there was a vehicle that just sort of pulled in right behind us, right? And I said, oh, that's weird. County's here, right? So they're just in and out all day. So you're sort of wondering if it's, something related, but who knows? But my center was functioning perfectly fine. Now they say that voters, they had several ways to cast their ballot. They could have dropped it into the drop box, door 3, the back door. Those ballots will be verified as legit, and then they'll be tabulated down at the main tabulation center, which is in downtown Phoenix. That process is already underway. Let's listen to him explain this to us now.
We had voters who showed up in person to take a ballot, vote it, and feed it into a tabulator. And for those who were not able to run that through the tabulator, they put that in this, what we call box 3, that we
the back
discussed
door
earlier. So that was around a little bit over 250,000 people. In addition, we also had people who received a early ballot. That was what Reporter Rich was talking about. As opposed to going in and feeding a ballot through the tabulator, they actually brought in that ballot. We had voters.
So the alternative to putting it in the front door, in the back door, and they count it that way, they continue, they say, why? This is the big question. Why did this happen, right? This is a big, important election. We don't want any problems. We've got a bunch of knuckleheads who are supposed to be in charge of this stuff, including Bill Gates, who's standing right here, and Stephen Richer, who's standing over here, and Katie Hobbs, who's the secretary, who's supposed to be sort of, the boss of a lot of this stuff. And what happened? They say, we are still investigating. Oh, it's the printer settings. And he says, the printer settings were the same ones that we used in the August primary, and the paper was the same thickness. That's the same excuse that I use here when my, internet doesn't work and everything breaks here. I'm like, well, it's the same settings, man. I don't know. But I'm not running a state and national election here. But I still try to test this. I understand technical problems, to be fair, but not on an election, not on a situation that affects 7% of the ballots. 7%. Good Lord. All right. He says that Maricopa Vote test printed and test balloted hundreds without issue.
For what happened? So what happened yesterday, we cannot have a repeat of. We are already looking very closely at what happened. Obviously, our team was able to come up with a fix yesterday for what happened, so that allowed those vote centers to get back online. But again, we are going to do a deep dive on this. This board will get to the bottom of exactly what happened, and we will do what needs to be done. The board has demonstrated that in the past when we have had issues, and we'll do that again. What happened yesterday?
They're going to get to the bottom of it, my friends. So we'll have to just wait and see what the answer is. Now, they did post a public apology. You see, this is their final letter. They say, message to the impacted voters. We recognize that we kind of screwed up on this, and we apologize for the inconvenience. Okay, the inconvenience. Could you imagine if 7% of Democrats or Democratic voters, or 7% of ballots, let's say 7% of early ballots that were mailed in had a problem? Could you imagine what that would look like? Yeah, probably wouldn't go over so nicely. But here they say, to the impacted voters, we recognize this isn't how you pictured Election Day. We apologize. We are committed to counting all legal votes. And we're going to find the root cause of what happened so that it does not happen again. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice of them. All right, let's take a look at this official statement here and see what they're going to get into. Maricopa County releases a joint apology statement from Chairman Bill Gates, not that one, and Vice Chairman Clint Hickman. They respond to America and to Arizona in particular. They say, over the past 24 hours, we've learned more about the printer issue that caused some of the ballots to not be read at the vote centers yesterday. Oops. While the issue impacted less than 7% of Election Day voters, about 17,000 ballots, no mail-in ballots were affected. That's interesting. We understand that for people who went through it, this was frustrating, inconvenient, and not how we pictured Election Day. You're telling us. We plan to get to the bottom of it. Ooh, I guess they're serious. The printer settings, here we go, on the ballot on-demand printers at the vote centers were the same ones used in the August primary. The paper was the same thickness. Prior to the general election, the elections department test printed and test tabulated hundreds of ballots without issue. We are committed to finding out what factors changed that led to issues at 70 vote centers on Tuesday. We are grateful for the county techs who found a fix to the problem by adjusting the printer settings. Shout out to the printer guy. Coming in clutch. He's like, what did you idiots do here? Let me fix this for you. Shout out to everybody in IT. We love you. The good news is election administration has built in redundancies, they say, backup plans when things don't go as planned. This enables all valid votes to count even if technology on occasion fails. Voters impacted by the printer issue had several ways to cast their ballot yesterday, including dropping their completed ballot into a secure box, door 3 on the site. Those ballots will be verified as legitimate and then tabulated down at the tabulation center. That process is already underway. They say all ballots in bold letters will be counted securely and accurately. And once we get through this election, they promise, we are committed to finding the root cause of the issue so it does not happen again after the election's over. Then we'll look into it. As a county board, they say we are grateful for the 3,000 election workers who helped legal voters cast a ballot. We are proud of the hybrid model that we've created that allows registered voters to cast a ballot in the way they choose, by mail or in person, with bipartisan oversight. So they're very happy with what they've done. And we are confident in the work still to be done to count every vote securely and accurately. Thank you for voting. So in their apology letter to all of Arizona, they say, we're proud of this hybrid model that we've created that allows you to do this every year. And we have bipartisan oversight, and we just love this process. And we're sorry about it. Kind of a disaster here. But we're pretty proud of this. And everything's going to be fine, so just relax. All right. So that's Arizona. That's Bill Gates and Clint Hickman apologizing, but saying you're also welcome for what has happened here. Now, there's more. We're going to check back in, of course, with Bloomberg on results, but I also wanted to show you what's going on with the elections department. They do an audit where they sort of select a small sample of the ballots and then they start counting them. That apparently has started, and you can see what this looks like with the chairs of the different parties who are present. The Maricopa County Elections Department, they posted this. They said, the hand count audit has begun. Today, the Maricopa County Republican, Democratic, and Libertarian Party chairs drew the races and the ballots that hand count audit boards are going to review this weekend. This is an important step in ensuring the accuracy of the election results. And so you can see that is what it looks like down there. They're drawing out of a hat. Looks like it has a nice little U.S. flag on it. Early voting ballots are here. Hand audit batch. So they're just sort of pulling them out of the main piles. And then they're putting them into these secure duffel bags that look like they came out of Ocean's 11 or something. So that's what's going on at the county elections department. And we'll see. Now, there's supposed to be some additional drops that come in in Arizona, but we'll have to just sort of wait and see. We'll do a refresh here on Bloomberg, see if any of the numbers are changing as we sort of go throughout the show. Hobbs leads by 15,000. So that went down a little bit by just about 1,000 votes. So that is tightening up a little bit. Now, we'll keep checking back on this. I want to show you what's going on with the data guru, and then we'll also check in with Harmeet Dillon because they are sort of plugged in very well. This came out 24 minutes ago from Gila County, which is a small county here, 3,400 ballots, and this is to be expected. Major break for Kari Lake. Gila County is it's a smaller county in Arizona, but it's traditionally more conservative, and you'd see that breaking out in the numbers. Kari Lake, 75% of those ballots to Katie Hobbs's 25. Blake Masters, similar, not quite as big, 71% for him to Mark Kelly's 26. Mark Fincham and Abe both getting the same type of result. So he's breaking those down. Stephen Richer, who does work over at the county, he says that the 290,000 early vote drop-offs remain that do not start verification until the day after Election Day. County staff has gone through 250,000 of them, 42,000 left to be signature verified. Okay, so that's a big bucket, right? That's a big chunk of votes that are early votes, but drop-off votes. So they're early vote drop-offs, meaning they didn't get enough time to put them in the mail to have those transferred over to be tabulated. So they just showed up and dropped them off. Now, it's hard to guesstimate which way those will break. We know that the in-person day of votes break heavily towards the Republicans, but the early votes, the early votes break heavily towards the Democrats. But these are sort of a split in the middle. It's people showing up the day of with an early ballot. So there's a big number of them. 290,000, 42,000 still left to count through. Bill Gates, who we just listened to, says that tonight, 8 p.m. our ballot drop, it's going to be at 8 p.m., so it's going to be a late one, is going to be larger than 68,000, but not much. Staff are working 14 to 18 hours a day. They're also going to work on Veterans Day. There were 290,000 early drop-offs, 410,000 total outstanding. People are asking him about Florida. He says, well, there's a difference here. The state does not allow in Florida election day drop-offs, right? So he's saying we got inundated with these things. It looks like Katie Hobbs was inside one of the ballot rooms. Not every woman with glasses is Katie Hobbs. We can confirm this was a party observer. Please refrain from making assumptions about workers who happen to wear glasses. All right, let's take a look at the what's going on over there. Actually, while we're here, because they are. Actually, this is from the secretary. This is from the county recorder website. Let's check these numbers. So that's a little bit closer, about 93,000 votes here on the county recorder website. Katie Hobbs, that hasn't changed much either. All right, now there are some cameras that we can actually see here where they are counting ballots. And I was looking at these earlier today, and let's see if we can pick up some good ones and see what's going on. Oh, they're not even in there. What time is it? Oh, it's probably, there it is. Okay, so it might be a shift change. All right, so here you can see, this is live down at Maricopa County. You can see it's November 10th down here in the bottom right now. Doesn't look like they're doing too much. Looks like it might be a shift change. I know that the time actually goes from, they're doing these in shifts from about 7 to 12, and then from 12 to 5, and then from 5, I think, to 8 is the sort of closeout time. I think that's how this is going. So looks like they're just sort of waiting. But when they were processing ballots earlier, the way this works is they sort of pull up the ballots on the screen, and then you get two observers who are sitting side by side. So, there's two chairs right next to each other. Presumably, you've got one person from one party, one person from another party, and they're sort of adjudicating these things. And this is what it looks like. All right, so that's one camera. You have this election monitor person who's down here in the corner who is watching what that looks like. And there's just a whole row of them, and they're just going through them one at a time. So not a lot of activity on that one. Let's see if there's any other cameras. This is another angle from that same angle. Okay, so we were looking at it coming this way from the front of the screens. This is the other side of the screen. And we'll go to camera 8. Here's a hallway shot. This guy's working away. Don't know what he's working on. Shout out to this gentleman. He's on a calculator. Oh, he's doing some calculations. What's he doing over there? What's he calculating? Huh? Somebody enhance that. Computer, enhance. Computer, enhance. All right, so he's over there. And not a lot of activity in other locations, but if you want to take a look at this, of course, you can go over. This is all publicly available at recorder.maricopa.gov. All sorts of camera angles in there for you to take a look at if you'd like to do that. So we may check back in and just see how that looks after the program is coming to a close, just to check in on some of the updates there. Harmeet Dillon has been doing some great work representing Kari Lake and the Republicans and advocating for them in the legal realm. Let's see if she has any updates for us. This also came out from Rich Barris, says that Maricopa intends to drop the Dem-friendly late arrivers and then close up shop. They're holding on the batches that are going to be extremely Republican and then selectively drop those. Yeah, so it's the same sort of argument that Maricopa County is sort of slow rolling this is the narrative. Not that there's anything fraudulent or anything problematic going on. It's just a slow process. That's all. Translation from Harmeet. says Maricopa is continuing to selectively release Democrat-heavy batches and withhold Republican ballots favoring Kari Lake, Masters, Amadei, and Fincham. But our projections still show us moving up and up and up as the election day ballots are released. That's being confirmed by the, so in other words, what this is saying is it might look worse before it looks better, okay? Like they're going to put the bad ones out are coming first. More confirmation from the county, this came from Data Guru, that while tonight's drop, quote, should be good for Dems, it does not include any election day drop-offs. If those behave anything like election day voters, they would put Kari Lake and Abe over the line. Okay, so in other words, if tonight's drop is not a home run for Katie Hobbs, then Kari Lake is looking good, right? I think this is all quite good news. Greenlee, very small county. They came out. Kari Lake, 68-31. Kelly Ward's involved. And the rest of this is, of course, asking what the heck is going on in Maricopa County. So those are the updates, my friends. And it's just going to be slow, as we heard from Bill Gates. It may take into next week. We don't even know how late. Might be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Who the heck knows? But of course, we'll continue to follow. I hope you're subscribed here so you can continue to join us wherever it is you're tuning in. And we'll look forward to seeing you when we have more updates from Arizona.